kids, what's now is not forever. They're not always babies. And they will call you out on your shit. Like, hey, why aren't you being nice to daddy? Why did you say that way? So they make you kind of like,
wow,
it happens. And this is when, that preteen, early teenage time is when we see so many daughters in particular pull away from the father who cannot shift into the respect the mother mindset.
Thanks to Sana Skin Studio for supporting the No podcast. Sana is a skin studio that is shifting the relationship with your skin and your products through goal-driven facials, real guidance, and clean skincare. Stay tuned for our promo code so you can receive $25 off of your first facial at Sana Skin Studio.
welcome to the No podcast with me, Nikki Spo. What's up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of The No with me, Nikki Spolstra. I'm so glad that you're here. Listen, today we are doing part 2 of divorce and co-parenting with Michelle Dempsey-Multack. If you have not checked out part 1, it is so good. Anybody who is going through a divorce or separation, or if you know somebody who is going through a divorce or separation, I highly recommend you checking out part 1. And today we're going to just get started with part 2 with Michelle Dempsey-Multack. Let's do this. Let's talk about the time where your ex was still angry and how that affected, if at all, your career trajectory. So how did you stay empowered to say the things anyway?
I am very mindful of what I say. And and I've asked him to tell me, if there is something that you can perceive as damaging to you, he's been very open with me about that. And, for me, it's what do I want Bella to hear and see one day?
Absolutely.
Which is not anything bad, because then it's all of this was a sham. I was, I don't know. I've always been open about the fact that he was angry at me. That's no secret. And he had every right to be. I think anybody who is left and sees the other person move on and be happy, they're entitled to that anger.
Sure.
So I call it righteous anger. That's really the most that I've talked about. But he has said to me, bro, I know this isn't about me, but it literally reads like your ex-husband was an abuser. I'm like, okay, shit, you're right. I'll take it down.
Really?
Yeah.
Where you can objectively be okay, it isn't about you. You both intellectually know that it's not about you.
I can see if it can be perceived in a certain way. And I always tell people content creators, if you question it for a second, if you're how are people going to take this? Is this going to maybe come across wrong? Skip it. It's not worth it.
I don't know.
I know you're still in that phase, but you're still, I get it. You're still in your truth telling, you're just coming out of it. I'm almost 8 years past this.
Yeah.
So, I also have a child who's social media age. It's different for me, but words have weight, and people perceive things. He had a hard time, for a long time, his ex-wife is the divorce lady. You know what I mean? That's annoying.
That is annoying.
And I had already moved on. I wasn't dating. I went from divorced to married again, basically.
Wait, for real?
No, but yeah. Spencer was the first person I dated after I got separated. The first and only, I went on 2 bad dates, met this bomb guy, and found out.
Bomb, not good bomb. Not the bomb.
No, good.
A bomb-ass guy.
Bomb-ass guy, met him, super hot. A week after I got separated, I'm in the chiropractor's office and I'm separation's great. He's checking me out. He's talking to me. Bella's giving him toys. She was 2. And then later on that day, I got a DM from him because he heard when they called my name and looked me up. I'm oh, soulmates. We're getting married.
Guys are creeps too.
So, yeah. Soulmates. Me and this guy. Okay, we're talking all the time. We hang out. I'm smitten. The next day we're about to hang out or whatever. I'm having coffee with one of my friends. She's did you Google him? And I'm oh my God, no. And she's well, how do you not Google somebody? You don't know anything other than his social media. Homeboy had just welcomed his first child a few days before we met at the chiropractor's office.
God.
His baby registry was still up and he was married a year before that. Still married with his wife. Baby just came out of her vagina. She probably still had diapers on when he met me in the chiropractor's office.
That guy.
Fuck that guy. Fuck me for thinking, I was so meant to be. It wasn't. But
my soulmate.
So I needed that experience to be like, okay, Michelle, wait a second. We're not looking for something meant to be right now.
Right.
We need to just focus on Bella. And at that point, God really did me a favor. We both got the flu. She's throwing up all over me. I'm by myself. I'm throwing up. I'm like, I got to settle into this aloneness. And I did. And as soon as I was like, I don't need no man. Here comes Spencer. I was like, oh.
Maybe that's what's, maybe that's on the horizon, because I was literally having a conversation the other day with a friend where I'm like, I just don't need it. I don't care.
The thing is, you don't need it, right?
Right.
It's a story we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
like Prince Charming, happily ever after.
Right.
But I always tell people, like, it's not hard to meet somebody else. It's hard to put the work into a relation. Like, no matter who it is, it all ends up the same way. Like, they're still going to load the dishwasher in a way that's going to make you want to throw a plate across the room. They're still going to do that thing with their tooth after they eat, right? It all ends up the same way. So you better make sure it's somebody you want and not just somebody you need.
Or just somebody to pass the time that you're filling your time with. And
Right.
ultimately, like, time is the currency, and it's super valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I always, I'm conscious of that when I say this, it comes off as if I am promoting divorce. And I'm sure you have a lot of experience, because you're not necessarily promoting divorce. You're
But
saying,
everyone
if you're
thinks I am.
Right. But in the event that you are choosing to get a divorce, here's how you can thrive in this. If you're making that decision, right?
Your breast cancer surgeon is not promoting breast cancer.
No.
They're
my gosh, thank you for saying that.
They're helping you get through that moment in time.
So what I'm thinking is, like, co-parenting is underrated. I will tell you what is that since being a co-parent, living in separate homes, I have been able to, like, rediscover myself. I have been able to invest in myself, take care of myself, invest in my business, grow my business, like, do hobbies that I didn't have time to do before.
Which in turn makes you
a better parent.
Mic drop. That's the other soundbite. That's it. Because it's true. Like, we all want to sit around and cry about not being with our kids. And that hurts sometimes.
It's hard.
For me, in the beginning, it was like waking up in the morning and seeing her bedroom door open and her little crib.
I close the door still. I still close the door.
That's one of the things.
Oh my gosh, my daughter's bedroom?
Baby?
And mind you, she's never known anything different.
Right.
But still she leaves. I'm like, the door gets closed.
Yeah, no,
I have to
same.
That was one. I think you taught me that.
I did.
Yeah.
That's one of the tips I give everybody. But at the same time, take a longer shower.
That's right.
Play whatever music I want to play in the car without having to listen to Baby Shark. Like, show up to parenting the next day refreshed, empowered. Like, people don't want to admit that. I don't like calling it a break, because at least in my case, I am always parenting Bella.
Yeah, of course.
My ex is around the corner and I'm like basically his assistant at this point. So there's no real break, but there is a space for me to breathe. And as a parent, parenting alone, you really need that.
Some days I just eat cereal for dinner and I love it so much. Like, I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
I like pour myself a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and I give no fucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is what I'm having for dinner. I don't have to prepare a meal for anybody.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about, I'm a healthy person. I work out and I eat my vegetables, but like,
Yeah, but you also have 3 kids. Like,
I'm gonna have a bowl of cereal for dinner and I'm gonna enjoy the out of this bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna tell me anything otherwise.
Yeah, and another part of that is allowing yourself to enjoy the bowl of cereal or whatever it is that you're doing, because then most people show up to the session with me like, I had the best weekend. I met this guy and we had so much fun, and I met my friends for brunch and I was having mimosas at noon, and I feel so guilty. Like, I feel so, and I'm like, wait a second.
I don't feel guilty.
What are you supposed to do? Sit at home and twiddle your thumbs until your kids come back? Like, what good does that do for anybody?
I've never felt that way, but I have friends that have felt that way. And it's almost like I can't even understand it, And so I've had to really lean into a space of like holding a lot of empathy for something that I can't relate to when people have shared that with me, like that guilt and that, like, I don't know.
Well, that's when you got to talk to yourself, if you're dealing with this, about the difference between guilt and shame.
Oh my gosh, there's such a big difference.
Guilty of doing something bad? Like, can you go to court and the judge is going to say, guilty, you had too much fun with your friends this weekend? Or do you feel ashamed because somewhere along the line you believed that you weren't allowed to have your own identity as a mother or as a person or as a human? God. Or were you in a relationship that was so controlling and abusive that you even going to Publix with lipstick on made you a devil, right? So like, is it guilt or is it shame? And it's always shame.
It's always shame. You're so right.
It's your mother saying, hey, mija, you think you should be going out right now? I mean, you're
gosh,
a mom
totally.
now, so it's people, it's what they say.
And it happens like with our clothes all the time too, especially like that is, I mean, and that's something I do, right? Like that's some of the content that I put together, right? Get ready with me videos. And this is what, and I love fashion. I love talking about fashion. Like I'm not going to shut the fuck up about it. So like get used to it, right? Get
used to it.
Like, I can't believe she's wearing that. I can't believe she's posting that. I can't believe,
It's like Kim Cattrall once said in Sex and the City, if I worried about what every bitch was saying about me, I'd never leave the house.
Never.
Ever. You don't think I see when I walk into like a place in Aventura and they all know me from Instagram and they pretend they don't because if they admit that they follow me, then their friends are going to think they're getting divorced and they're all like, and I'm like, guys, I don't care. I don't care because you've earned the right. Like you said, you've earned what you've got, right?
Yeah.
Like this is, you've made 3 children. You've been through hell and back. You've seen a child through the darkest, scariest thing that could ever happen. Like you can eat your fucking cereal in your underwear and your tube socks and enjoy your night.
Can we talk about my doggy tube socks now?
I'm in my sock era too. Scrunchy
I'm just like, I cannot not wear socks.
I love
this
those.
is Rosie. I have delivered all 3 of my babies with these Rosie socks.
Really?
Yeah.
That exact pair?
That's
a lucky
they are
pair.
old. They're super old. They're like ratty, but they're like my good luck socks. So I wore them today for our little chat, but I wear them like when I have meaningful things going on in my life. This is like totally unrelated, but like get yourself a pair of like good luck socks.
I'm really just in my 90s like scrunchy sock era.
It's a good vibe. It's like it's how we stay looking young, you know.
Very
That's what the young
90210.
kids are doing. Now I just address the comments head on from
What
people.
do you say? Like, what do you say to people? My comment section is so scary.
A
Unhinged.
lot. So people first come, I think people, for me, have come at like my integrity, right? Like it's the gold digger narrative or questioning my intentions
but
or whatever.
It's so ridiculous because on one hand, you're a gold digger and on the other hand, you fumbled the bag.
I know. It doesn't,
If she was a gold digger, she would have been more
strategic about it.
Then people also don't know that you were an impressionable young girl when you met your and you didn't know yourself yet. And he wasn't who he was yet either. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I know.
I'm telling everyone else. I just want people to know that. Like a woman who you have, whatever, that's a whole nother conversation, the gold digger thing. There are men out there who want to be dug for their gold. Like, so stop putting it out there.
Well, my point is like, so I talked a little bit about that with Jamie on the episode that we called "Secured the Bag." It's neither here nor there. It is what it is. People say it. My whole thing now is like I just address it, right? So people like first they come for your integrity, then they try to come for your intellect, and for me, then they come for my appearance or something like that. So, like at first the narrative is like, oh, she's a gold digger, oh, she fumbles the bag, you know. Then you try to come like, oh, she's so stupid, that's so cringe, like, oh my gosh, that content, right? And then it's like, she has too much Botox and look at that nose and look at that chin. And so now I'm just like, dog, you think I haven't lived with this fucking snout for my whole fucking life? I'm like, I have a snout. No. I've known about this snout forever.
I know. I get a lot.
I have a jaw. It's a brick. It's not quite Jay Leno, but I'm like, yes.
Well, now
like, you're right.
That's the way to do it.
I'm like,
I thought you were fighting back. I don't do that. No, for me, it's like this.
Like defending that. I'm like, you're right. I'm old. I aged out of the sugar baby demographic. I am too old to be a sugar baby.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break so I can thank our sponsor, Sana Skin Studio, with their OG location in Wynwood and their additional locations in Fort Lauderdale and Coconut Grove. Okay, so the best way I can describe Sana is that it feels like coming home. Unlike traditional facials, Sana's facials are rooted in education, and I love this so much. Every experience I have had at Sana has been a chance for me to learn more about my skin and its needs. I love that the facials are effective while also being accessible enough to be a monthly ritual rather than a yearly splurge. This is why the Sana membership is so great. I'm honored to be able to provide our audience with a promo code. Use the code THENOGLOW for $25 off of your first facial when booking at sanaskinstudio.com and additional incentives if you book a membership. I have absolutely loved my skin healing journey with Sana Skin Studio.
I got a lot of hate recently. I went to a party and I realized I looked very thin in that dress. Anyway, an old client, which was really sad. I think she's struggling a lot with her own stuff, but she unfollowed me. She told me she was unfollowing me. You know, those people who are like, I'm unfollowing you now. I normally don't give a shit, but it was a client I really loved. And a couple of months ago, I was on vacation and I posted pictures. I was in a bathing suit with my friends. And she was like, look at you promoting anorexia.
I saw that.
And I was like, you know what? This is somebody who I actually shared with her the fact that I have struggled with an eating disorder my entire life. And sometimes that means your weight's going to go up and down drastically. Yeah. Anyway, she wanted to unfollow me. I said to myself, she's got her own shit going on. Fine. Then it was this 2 weeks ago with, you should fire your stylist, fire your makeup artist. You're hideous. You're disgusting. You look like Amy Winehouse.
I saw that too.
So now everything I post, I put an Amy Winehouse song because I thought it was amazing.
Love it. Yeah.
I loved her. And I'm sorry if my appearance triggers you to the point of being so hateful, but like,
that's right.
What Susie says of Sally.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
But it happens. And I think that's the ugly side of social media. But if you don't know yourself yet and you can't laugh along with it, like, I don't know that I could ever be a Real Housewife. That I don't think I could do. You can't find me one Real Housewife that has not been torn down and like slaughtered by social media. That I don't know if I could handle.
I feel like I've been like, you know, I'm not obviously like on a housewife level like that, but man, people have shredded me pretty hard.
This is a celebrity divorce, my friend. I am not a celebrity, but you.
I'm kind of like, what you got for me now? I'm like, keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm like, please.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, at this point, I'm like, you want to keep me relevant? Keep me relevant. Cool.
But who's keeping you relevant are the people who do love and appreciate your message. And, you know, it's in our chemical makeup to focus more on the negative.
That's true.
And it's triggering. If we sit here and say like, oh, it doesn't bother me what people say. Of course it does. Of course it does. We're human. But I think the way you respond also says a lot about who you are. You know, if you go toe to toe with all these people.
You can't go toe to toe with idiots, though.
It's like the Jay-Z quote, never argue with fools because people from a distance can't tell who is who. It's the truth.
It's true.
I was just listening to something, taking it back to divorce. I'm a big follower of Bill Eddy, who is the founder of the High Conflict Institute. And I was listening to a podcast that he did where he was talking about alienation and family court. And he was saying, when you get to court, the judge is not looking at, they're looking at how these two people relate to each other. So if you're constantly fighting with each other, they're not going to see an aggressor and a victim. They're just going to see two animals.
Wow.
So how do you...
Wow.
How do you show who's who and what's what? You do not partake. You don't engage.
That's so hard.
Yeah. Listen, being Jewish and being on social media right now also,
Listen.
I had to take a big step back for a while because nothing has hurt me quite like this has. But at the same time, knowing that like speaking up and staying in my power as a Jewish woman who is proud to be that, like, that's going to inspire, if it inspires 3 people. And actually,
absolutely,
it has led so many people to reach out. It made me a speaker at a big event recently because of that. And I'm like, I'm just
me. I know. Isn't that like
me?
A wild moment when
but
you're like, really me? Yes, you.
For the 15,000 people who unfollowed me, if there's a handful that feel inspired by me because of that, great. And that's the same for you.
Well, I think it's really comes down to like people. I'd rather have fewer followers, subscribers, listeners, fewer people in my audience that are quality and really fully invested and believe in the work that I'm doing and find meaning in it and hope, right? Than millions of people who are just curious.
Yeah. Who are waiting to tear you down the second you say something they don't want to hear.
You know, and so you were talking about how some of the things that people have said to you or the person who unfollowed you, and it's bringing it to the political situation. I had a friend tell me they don't want to be friends with me anymore because of where I stand in my beliefs. And I was really taken aback because I understand not wanting to associate with people who have like such drastically different belief systems. I personally think that there is a way to have conversations where people can begin to respectfully feel and like, even if they don't agree.
I honestly feel like not since...
everything.
Not even the Jewish stuff, but like, I think the two political parties are love Trump, hate Trump. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's no having conversations with people
Well,
anymore.
and
It's
there's
a
no
little
middle.
ridiculous.
There's no middle area anymore of anything.
Of anything.
And so when this friend was like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Essentially, like, not just on social media, but in real life.
But what does that say about that person?
Okay, but that person was like, unless you can show me that this is not what you mean. And I was like, you know what?
There's
Bye.
the door. Yeah.
I don't have to prove anything to my friends like that.
Yeah.
Like that I'm on your side or on this side.
Yep.
We're not friends, and that's okay.
What's crazy is my mom and her husband are on two totally different sides.
Well, that's
of
gotta
the
be wild.
I'm like, Ma, how do you, because me and my mom are on the same side politically. I'm like, how do you, she's like, wait, Michelle, we don't talk about it. It's not something, she's like, I discuss it with my friends and my family and the people who agree with me. And he has the same conversations with his people. And we just don't bring it to the table for us. And I'm like, that's how it should be. But people can't, I mean, social media has polarized everything, you know? Everything's black and white when like we literally, and this is what bringing it back to divorce, you have to live in the gray. There's no,
it's so true,
all one way or all the other way. Like get comfortable in the gray because that's your life as a co-parent. It really is.
So how have you been able to find this like really good groove in your co-parenting, like despite the anger on any side, right? How do you encourage people to find that? Because when you're when those emotions are running high and you can say till you're blue in the face, put your kid in the center, not the middle. Mm-hmm. How do you actually implement that?
When it really starts to click is when they do see their child being affected. You know, when you have...
Negatively or positively? Do you think that things work out when you see your child thriving?
I think I think when somebody sees something negative happening with their child and then, they'll say, oh, you know, he never wants to go to his dad's. He only wants to stay with me. And I'm like, yeah, tell me about that. How come? Is something happening at dad's? No, once he's at dad's, he's fine. I'm like, so let's pick this apart a little more. What's happening at the transition? And then the client will say, well, you know, he never ever answers my text. So when I drop off my son, I'm asking him about, and I'm like, so your child is scared of the transition and not because of the other parent, because of you. So when they, when the person can connect that their behavior is now affecting the children, 99% of the time they're going to pull back and re-strategize. There's always that, you know, I have had a client that could not see that anything was because of her, and that's very difficult to deal with. But most people will pull back at that time. Yeah, and you know, kids, what's now is not forever. They're not always babies, and they will call you out on your shit, like, hey, why aren't you being nice to daddy? Why did you say that way? You know, so they make you kind of like,
wow.
It happens. It happens. And this is when, you know, that preteen, early teenage time is when we see so many daughters in particular pull away from the father who cannot shift into the respect the mother mindset, because it just creates kids at that age are so angry to begin with, and they need someone to blame, right? So if it can be you, and what we see with dads and fathers is that when they don't change to adapt to the fact that their daughters are now going to be moody, prefer their friends more, may not want to engage in as much time sharing because the party that they want to go to is on mom's side of the town. When the dad can't change to put the child first in that, this is where we see the estrangement happening. And I see it all the time. I lived it and it sucks. But most times people will shift when they see that they're affecting their kids negatively.
How do kids recover?
Well, the goal really is to raise children that don't need to recover from their childhoods. I mean, that's Erin Levine from Hello Divorce once said to me a few years ago, and it's become my like branding, my motto, that I'm helping people give their children a divorce experience they can be proud of, you know, and we want our kids to look back and say, was it perfect? No. But did my parents do everything they could to try and make it good? Yes. But, you know, we talk a lot about adverse childhood experiences and how kids are affected in their lives as children that will follow them into adulthood. But there are positive childhood experiences too. So it can be the both and. Your parents could have both gotten divorced and loves the shit out of you separately. So it's not like one thing happens and the children are scarred for life. They're not going to have to recover because you got divorced. They'll have to recover if all they witness thereafter is conflict and blame and parentification and loyalty binds. But if you can avoid that, it's not the divorce your kids are going to have to recover from. It's like my therapist once told me, because I told her, I'm constantly I'm in school to become a therapist now. Do you know that?
I do know that.
So, right. So the more you know.
I'm going back to school too. I'm so excited.
Are you?
Yeah.
So it's like the more you know, the more like every sentence that comes out of my mouth to Bella, I'm like, shit, is she going to complain about this in therapy one day? And my therapist was like, your child will complain about you in therapy one day. They're going to. You 100%. Can't avoid that, but it doesn't have to be the divorce that fucks them up. It could be.
It'll be something else.
The way you rushed her out the door
and you're
every
never
morning.
good, and you might not even know it until like years later. You're not going to even know that you were doing it. It's like something you're so conscious of so many other things in your life that you're trying to do right. Like you don't know that this other one thing that you didn't even know was wrong.
I always
creeps up to bite you in the butt in the future.
My daughter will go to therapy as an adult to deal with her anxiety. And the doctor will say, where did this anxiety start? And she'll say, when my mom would rush me out the door and tell us we were going to be late and we were always early and the first ones there. Like, that's it. That's her trauma for sure. I can feel it.
God bless.
But it's not going to be the divorce because, you know, as much as her dad and I have not seen eye to eye, like we're both obsessed with her and her well-being.
I love that. So something you talked about recently is also like the importance of introducing new partners to your children, right? Obviously, that's something that I'm going to be tiptoeing around and at some point in my future, hopefully. And the importance of like, you know, not necessarily introducing every person you meet to your children, but definitely introducing people to understand if they can even vibe with your kids.
I think it's really important. I think if you care about your kids at all, you're not going to bring someone into their lives that don't show as much interest in them and their well-being as they do yours. For example, I had somebody write to me yesterday, is this normal? My boyfriend broke up with me because I wanted to take my kids to see their dad on Father's Day. And he didn't think I should do that. I'm like, well, you're very lucky he broke up with you.
Yeah.
You know, like
for sure.
You have to be with somebody who's going to not just respect your children, but respect your time and your relationship with them and respect the fact that if your child calls with a tummy ache while you're on a date with this person, you're going to drop everything and run. Like that was really important to me. When I met Spencer, his daughter was 10. Bella was 2 in diapers.
Totally different.
The first time we introduced them, we went to a restaurant and Bella launched a full glass of bubbly water across the table for no reason other than she was 2. And I'm like, motherfucker, he's going to break up with me. And he was like, the way he picked up the napkin, it was like, it's okay, let's just try it. And I was like, huh.
Oh my gosh, swoon.
But little things like that, you got to see, how are they going to react? Are they going to allow you to discipline your child the way you want to? Are they going to try and force you to do something different? So I am very big on that. You should definitely not introduce every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes your way, but someone that you know you want to keep seeing and that you can envision a life with. Don't start planning a wedding in your brain until you see how that person relates to your kids. Because for me, the biggest turnoff would have been if they were not nice to Bella or if they gave me a hard time because me and Bella's dad wanted to take her to the pumpkin patch together for the first time. You know, when I was engaged to Spencer when me and my ex took Bella to Disney World together. And if he would have stood in the way, I would have been like, here you go. Yeah. Because my ex and I couldn't decide who would take her first. So we ended up going together, but like not at a very amicable time in our co-parent.
Oh gosh. How'd that work out?
It worked out. And with the best part of it, Nikki, is that she doesn't even remember it. She was 4.
It was really a trip for both of you guys to be there for her first
ego.
Disney. Right.
All ego.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm not going to miss her
first time.
But
here's the thing, Michelle, is like you guys do deserve those milestone moments with your children as well. Like as individuals, as people, like you guys deserve those things too. Like it sounds like there has to be some world in which you have, you know, the ownership over your life experiences and the things that you want to see happen. And, right, it doesn't have to necessarily be either or, but and keep your child in the center.
Yeah, for sure.
And that sounds like one of those moments where you're like, okay, we want these milestones. We as adults want these milestones as parents, right?
Yep. And I love how like we've gotten to a place where, so she's going to sleepaway camp for the first time next month.
Are you like excited and terrified?
I'm just, the packing, man. It's the packing that keeps me up at night. She'll be fine at camp. She's cool as shit. But anyway, the point is, it's like, he's like, all right, I know you're going to want to be there to drop her off. And I'm like, and I know you're going to want to be there. Like, so the fact that we can have these conversations and find an outcome that for each other. Yeah, we're both still, you know, for Bella, it doesn't matter. She just wants to go to camp. Yeah. There is still a part of every parent that wants it for themselves. Right. But the fact that we can admit that and talk about it, I am really proud of that. Like if if that's the best you can get to in co-parenting, it's more than enough, because people have a really skewed view of what they think co-parenting needs to be.
What do you think that view is?
They think that you need to be besties, you need to be spending holidays together and taking family photos. I think that's bullshit. I think if you could do all that so easily, you might as well just stay together. I think what good co-parenting is supporting your child's relationship with the other parent, staying in your lane and let them be the parent they need to be, and following your parenting plan. It doesn't need to be more difficult than that.
I love how simply you put that.
I mean, if you think about it,
it's that simple.
We complicate it with feelings and emotions and ego, everything.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much
for
all of this. I want to have more conversations with you.
Yeah, well, we went in 700 different directions.
I know, but this is what the people need to hear, all of the things.
Agree.
They need to hear all of the things.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I don't feel indebted because I don't feel like I'm in debt. I feel grateful. I just feel really grateful for your presence in my life.
Happy.
So, Michelle, tell everybody where they can check you out.
Instagram at the Michelle Dempsey. My website is michelledempsey.com. We not only work with clients one-on-one to help them through their divorce and co-parenting processes. I created the Moving On Method Divorce Coach Certification Program.
Which is amazing. I got to speak at one of your conferences or one of your team meetings.
Yes, we were just trademarked. We're certifying and training coaches because I was a little horrified by the fact that there are so many people out there coaching that weren't actually.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of divorce and co-parenting education. When you take that certification, there's the podcast, Moms Moving On, the book. She's there. She's cute.
She's so cute.
Mm-hmm. She's out there. She's helpful. For dads too. I'm sorry about the title. And that's it. That's where you can find me.
We love you, Michelle.
Thanks. Yay. Thanks for having me.
This podcast was brought to you by Sana Skin Studio. Be sure to use my code, TheNoGlow, for $25 off of your first facial at Sana when booking via sanaSkinstudio.com. More than a skin studio, Sana is a movement towards healthier skin and self-love. Thank you so much for listening to The Know. If you loved this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. Words are so powerful, and someone may need to hear what we covered today. And if you really loved this episode, please take a moment to rate the show and leave a review. Your comments are so important and valued, and they give other listeners insight on what to expect on The Know. You can connect with me personally via Instagram at Nikki Spo and The Know with Nikki Spo. My hope for you today is that you are fearless in looking inward so that you can be your highest, most authentic self and go after the life of your dreams.